SpaceX is in the final phase of preparing Starship 25 and Super Heavy Booster 9 for their integrated flight test. After destacking the vehicle on October 5, teams spent more than a week performing fixes on Booster 9, mainly focusing on the outside and inside of its aft section. Recently, the first test article to NASA has been experiencing a few different delays as both Sierra Space, the company building Dreamchaser, a lot more Dreamchaser missions and more astronaut training for Dreamchaser's first launch. The launch provider ULA need more time. Stay tuned as we get into this, and we're covering all of this and more in today's episode.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of my channel.
Although it wasn't clear what exactly they did, it can be assumed that they made some minor modifications and upgrades to the booster that needed to be done before it was ready for liftoff. The hot stage ring on top of the booster was removed on October 9th, and it was the second time the ring was removed from the booster after its installation in August. After removing the hot stage ring, a platform was constructed out to the booster from the Starship's quick disconnect arm, allowing personnel to access the top of the booster. The top of the booster forward dome houses grid fin actuators, avionics, and associated components. The removal of the hot stage ring allowed teams to access the top of the booster and make any necessary hardware fixes. After completing works on Booster 9, on October 15, teams removed the scaffolding installed on the launch mount and reinstalled the hot stage ring on Booster 9, with the help of a crane. The following day, Ship 25 was lifted with the help of launch tower arms and placed atop Booster 9 to complete the full stack. Immediately after that, SpaceX posted on X that they were preparing for a launch rehearsal, hinting that a full stack wet dress rehearsal was imminent. However, things did not go according to SpaceX's plan, as they could not connect the ship's quick disconnect umbilical to Ship 25, due to some issues with the mechanism on the ship's side. Teams spent the next several hours working to fix the issue by climbing onto the quick disconnect arm, but all those efforts were in vain. A day later, Ship 25 was destacked from Booster 9 for teams to work on fixing the issues with the quick disconnect. Over the next 2 days, Ship 25 and quick disconnect umbilical received a number of repairs and upgrades. Workers were also seen inspecting the welds on Booster 9, especially at stringers on the forward dome, using special weld inspection tools. Finally, on October 20th, after all repairs and inspections were completed, Ship 25 was lifted and restacked to top Booster 9. The quick disconnect umbilical was then successfully connected to the ship, confirming that the repairs were successful. The full stack wet dress rehearsal is the next milestone for Ship 25 and Booster 9. The wet dress rehearsal test will simulate a launch day scenario, except for the ignition of the rocket's engines. It will involve fully loading propellants into the booster and ship, followed by a launch countdown rehearsal. During the countdown, SpaceX would ensure all systems work correctly right up to the engine ignition. The vehicle will be detanked after the rehearsal. While Starship is nearly ready for the second integrated flight test from a technical standpoint, SpaceX is yet to receive the final regulatory approval from the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration and the Fish and Wildlife Service. The authorities are currently undertaking a final safety review of the launch vehicle, as well as a review of the environmental impact of the latest upgrades to the Starbase launch site, especially the water deluge system. A Fish and Wildlife Service spokesperson recently stated that their agency received the final biological assessment from the FAA on October 5, and they have up to 30 days to review it. The Fish and Wildlife Service has 135 days to release an amended biological opinion after that 30-day review period. This implies that there's a chance the second integrated flight test won't happen until March 2024. The Fish and Wildlife Service officials have begun inspecting the area surrounding the Starbase launch site, along with SpaceX employees. Hopefully, the biological opinion will be released soon. A marine notice for rocket launching operations near Boca Chica Beach from November 1st has been published lately. Back updates include each day following November 1st until conditions permit the launch. It is important to remember that the date is merely a placeholder for now and should not be treated as an actual launch date. During a U.S. Senate subcommittee hearing on October 18, William Gerstenmaier, Vice President for Build and Flight Reliability at SpaceX, testified that the Starship vehicle has been ready to fly for more than a month now, but is still awaiting the necessary government approvals to fly again. It's a shame when our hardware is ready to fly and we're not able to go fly because of regulations or rear review. We need to be safe, we need to protect the environment, we don't dismiss those, but we need to fly at the fastest pace that we can do hardware development. The AST licensing division needs at least twice the resources that they have today. We also recommend expedited hiring authority for AST to onboard additional qualified technical experts with an innovative mindset or to bring in outside help. The AST's role is to protect public safety, not to ensure success of rocket launches. When it comes to projects of national interest, such as the Artemis program, Congress should establish a regulatory regime consistent with the national program objectives and schedules. The 43 engines, the staging, all this is new technology. We need to test that soon, learn what's wrong, fix it, go fly again. And we cannot be held up by regulation. So it's hard for me to give a specific date of where we are, but the current pace where regulation is driving. We should not be the case. The burden should be put on us as a private company, put on SpaceX and let us develop at the fastest pace. We should be the ones that are driving the development, not being driven by regulatory oversight. You can watch the complete U.S. Senate subcommittee hearing from the link given in the description. Several senior SpaceX officials recently discussed with RZ Technica how working with the FAA has hindered progress on the Starship program, as well as advancements with the Falcon 9 rocket and Dragon spacecraft. While the officials commend the FAA's efforts with the resources available, they emphasized the need for a larger licensing team, especially for missions of national importance. According to SpaceX, the company worked for 2 years to obtain the initial Starship launch license and has been waiting months for the second. They fear that such lengthy reviews will delay future test flights needed to demonstrate Starship's viability, refueling capability and ability to safely land on the Moon. SpaceX plans to launch up to 12 times a month next year and hopes to deploy the next-generation Starlink internet satellites into orbit with the help of Starships. Therefore, the officials recommend that the FAA seek support from NASA, the U.S. Space Force and other agencies for assistance in managing the regulatory load it is currently facing. Starship 26 pre-launch tests continue at suborbital Pad B. Ship 26 conducted a pre-burner test on Wednesday, October 18th. Starship's Raptors consists of 2 separate closed-cycle gas generators known as pre-burners, which combine methane and liquid oxygen propellant to create a hot gas mixture that the engine reignites to produce thrust. A pre-burner test involves activating those igniters, producing a gentle fireball that won't generate any significant thrust. Pre-burner tests have become increasingly rare as SpaceX's Raptor design matured over the course of several ground testing and flight tests. The last time a pre-burner test was performed at Starbase was 2 years ago on Starship 20. The Ship 26 pre-burner test may have been conducted to validate the recent upgrade to the current generation Raptor engine. On Friday, October 20th, Ship 26 underwent a static fire test with a single Raptor engine. The engine was fired for about 6 seconds during the test. Static fire tests are carried out to make sure the plumbing, valves, ignition systems and engines of the vehicle are operating as intended before an actual launch. Ship 26 has been preparing for the static fire test at Pad B for the past 43 days, making it one of the most anticipated tests in recent times. Tests involving 2 separate Starships for the upcoming launch approvals are scheduled for October 22nd. We might witness a full-stack wet dress rehearsal and more Ship 26 tests on Sunday. Super Heavy Booster 11, recently relocated to SpaceX's Massie's facility, has begun its cryogenic-proof test campaign. The booster completed its first cryo-proof test on October 13th. The test began by partially filling the methane tank of the booster with liquid nitrogen. The loading of the oxygen tank started while the methane tank was detanking. Eventually, both tanks were completely emptied, concluding the test that lasted for more than 6 hours. Booster 11 conducted its second cryo test on October 18th. This time, the liquid nitrogen had filled the oxygen tank to the brim and the vehicle was kept like that for the next 3 hours. As the oxygen tank started to gradually empty, liquid nitrogen pumping into the methane tank commenced. The methane tank was partially filled before detanking to conclude the test, which lasted for more than 8 hours. Apart from ensuring the reliability of the plumbing, these types of cryo-proof tests give engineers the valuable data they need to determine if the booster can endure various kinds of stresses during flight and whether the structure has any leaks. Booster 11's predecessor, Booster 10, underwent 3 cryo-proof tests at Massie's last month before returning to the Starbase production facility. Similarly, we can expect more Booster 11 cryo-proof tests in the coming days. Starship Test Tank 14 underwent a cryo-proof test at Massie's on October 19. Test Tank 14 comprises a 2-ring forward section and a 3-ring aft section with stringers. Both sections are sleeved over elliptical-style domes or E-domes. Test Tank 14 was built to obtain data to validate the elliptical dome design. Once SpaceX finalizes the elliptical dome design, such domes will replace the older Starship dome designs. Apart from Test Tanks 14, Ship 24.2 and the aft section of Ship 27 are currently stationed at Massie's for structural testing. Please watch my previous video to learn about these test tanks and their purposes. Links in the description. Work on Starships and Super Heavy boosters designated for future missions is progressing rapidly at the production site. Starships 28 and 29 have completed the cryo-proof test campaign and are being prepared for static fire tests near the rocket garden. The aft flaps for the fully stacked Starship 30 were moved inside the high bay the past week and were eventually installed on the ship. Ship 31 stacking operations were completed 2 weeks ago and it will now have its aft flaps installed and internal plumbing completed. Both ships 30 and 31 will be subjected to cryogenic proof tests shortly. Ship 32 stacking operations are progressing inside the high bay. The forward dome of the ship was moved into the high bay on October 16. On the 18th, the already stacked payload bay nose cone assembly was lifted and joined with the forward dome. The primary structure of Ship 32 will be completed after 3 more stacking operations. The fully stacked boosters 10 and 12 are inside the mega bay and the booster 13 stacking operation is underway next to them. Now, let's discuss some of the latest updates from the world of science and technology. By now, not only is there another uncrewed variant being manufactured, but the company is also starting to work on a crewed version. We also have received a host of new renders of the crewed variant, which has quite a few differences from the uncrewed version. In the next few years, we can expect progress on the system, assuming the CRS-2 flights go well. The main appeal of the Dreamchaser design is its ability to launch on a host of different vehicles and land at runways around the world. This ensures that the crewed vehicle can abort during launch in the case of an emergency. An expendable cargo module will be launched to the back of the spacecraft, expanding the cargo uplift capacity and supporting the disposal of up to 3,250 kilograms or over 7,000 pounds of trash. Total uplift is planned for 5,000 kilograms or 11,000 pounds pressurized and 500 kilograms or 1,100 pounds unpressurized. With a downlift of 1,750 kilograms or over 3,800 pounds contained within the space plant, the expendable cargo module is called Shooting Star. The Vulcan still hasn't launched its maiden flight yet, which is scheduled to happen in December. If successful, it's possible that you will like and have the next Vulcan ready for early 2024. Designed for high reusability, this vehicle is trying to reduce overall cost, providing quick turnaround between missions. The ability to lift off on top of multiple launch vehicles and land at a wide variety of runways makes Dreamchaser a flexible option for reliable transportation. After leaving the space station, the Dreamchaser cargo system also offers disposal services via the Shooting Star transport vehicle. Once separated from Dreamchaser, Shooting Star burns up safely in our atmosphere. On the first mission, after launching, Dreamchaser Tenacity will make its way to the station before berthing to it. The planned mission duration is around 80 days from start to finish. In other words, the majority of its time will be attached to the station. Eventually, we'll disconnect and attempt its first ever re-entry. In the past few decades, a lot of focus has been on innovating the vehicle's heat shield and tile technology, just one aspect of many that the first launch will truly test. Sierra Space is continuing to prepare for the first launch of Dreamchaser Tenacity. They are recently trained in another group of astronauts that are expected to launch to the station in February. Realistically, this is when Dreamchaser should also be on its way. We will have to wait and see how it progresses and the impact it has on the space industry. If you like this video, make sure to give a thumbs up and subscribe. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.